we're live. Hey, Jordan, do you want to ring us in?
Yes.
Yes.
I've rung.
Yes.
Ow!
Yes. Hi, guys. All right, so we've been setting this call up for only 10 minutes. That's really... Wait, no, I'm sorry. 17 minutes. All right, it's under 20. That's good.
Not bad.
Really?
It's like we're starting all over again.
Oh my god, I'm so nervous.
We kind of are starting new because we're not in person because we can't be. So this is kind of a new medium, and now that Skype has built-in recording, anybody can do this, even us.
Yes. And hopefully
Even you.
John knows how to take the audio from this.
So when we were setting it up, like doing a test recording of this, Jordan's like, do you think John can pull the audio from it? And my response was like, I'm sure someone named John could, but his name is Joe, not John.
Oh, I'm such a piece of American shit. I'm sorry, Joe.
Shout out to Joe Hamilton, MVP of all things.
And this might take some time, right? Because isn't Joe doing something for you, Matthew?
He's busy right now.
Oh, sorry, he's busy right now.
Yeah, well, right now he's asleep, but Joe is, Joe
No,
is...
he just hit me up like an hour ago asking me to like give him a kettlebell workout.
Oh, nice. Well, then maybe he's up, but I don't know. I guess he's a late to bed kind of guy. But no, he's doing some work with Nolly right now, doing some GGD stuff. Yeah, we were right now today and yesterday. Me and Dez, my other partner from Get Good Drums, we were both supposed to be in the UK for a recording session, and we're not now, obviously, for obvious reasons. So Joe stepped up and saved the day, and him and Nolly are cracking away at that session. So,
Oh, hell yeah.
yeah, he's like I said, he's the MVP of all things.
Get it, John.
All right. Actually, I mean, his middle name is John.
Oh,
Joe
maybe,
John.
you know what, I think I did know that, and he asked me to save that as his name in my phone. Anyway, welcome to episode
Do we know?
65. I don't know. No, I don't know. But this is nice to be back with you guys. It's been a while since we've done this.
Yeah, the reception was really cool. Like, people being excited that we're doing this, it seemed cool. It's just been a while. But me and Justin, like, got back into the swing of training together, all to have that be postponed for now. And then me and Jordan saw each other, what,
We got
like,
lunch.
how long ago? About, what, 2 months now? Probably?
Maybe. Yes, it feels right.
Yeah. Anyway, we
it's
talked
nice.
about, separately, but collectively talked about getting back into this. And seems like a really good time to do it, given just the state of things and everybody being at home and us being at home and a lot going on, you know? It's weird right now. It's very weird right now.
I walked the neighborhood for like an hour today for the first time in a week. And dude, it just feels like a funeral out there. And it felt very solemn, but also there's way more eye contact and smiling as a way to just, I think, feel connected and to offer comfort. But it's just it's like a solemn vibe.
Yeah, it's kind of like the dark joke that everyone's in on. It's like the minute you cross somebody or see somebody, it's like, I know what you're thinking, you know?
It's intense. I did have one woman, I kind of paused and turned my body, and I was, only because I was doing something on my phone, and this woman sitting on a park bench just like asked, "Hey, are you okay?" And I don't think that would have happened prior to this. And even just passing a police officer, like, it felt important to thank him. And as I passed, dude, even, and this is so fucking terrible, I was in a liquor store, and there were 4 people in scrubs. There's a hospital a couple blocks away, and they walked in, and my immediate thought was gratitude, but also don't get too close to them.
Yeah. I mean, that's the front line. Yeah. I mean, that's like the essential personnel who can't get out of it right now. And yeah, I mean, as testing gets better, or we have more tests, it's going to be, it's strange how your demeanor towards certain people will change just because of trying to create that social distance of like, wait, these are like everyday people that I should be expressing gratitude towards, towards.
Well, what's it like for you, Justin? Because your fiance, who you live with, is a psych nurse at Johns Hopkins Hospital.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it has really set in. We just have the conversation that I think I heard a statistics, and this might have been from the Michael Moore podcast that you and I both listened to, of like 4 out of 5, 80% of people are going to get it. It just depends on kind of the severity of how it hits you and symptoms you show and how bad it gets, I guess. I think she's just under the impression that, given the environment she works in and then seeing the numbers that come out of the hospital, that she's like bound to get exposed to it, and it kind of is what it is. I think you just come to like an understanding of there's not much she can do and she has to keep going. And I guess you just keep reassessing, every time. And it's hard to not feel that way. I've heard from plenty of people today, mostly today actually, where people are saying, I get a little bit of like tightness in my chest, and yes, I'm anxious, but it's also hard to kind of discern, when do you say when? I don't want it to, I've heard people say, I don't want it to be like too late. So the conversations Carly and I have, in that both of us are going into like hospital settings this week, it's interesting because we're trying to do our best due diligence to take care of ourselves and each other, and then the staff that we work with, and patients and residents that we work with.
Yeah, I want to hear Matt's perspective, but it feels important real quick to offer a disclaimer because you threw out a statistic, and I think more people should do this. But for those listening and watching, we are not experts, and don't take anything that we share as absolute fact or vetted reporting or otherwise. This is just the things that we come across, just as you come across.
Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
Well, I hadn't really heard that statistic. I didn't listen to the podcast that you guys are talking about. Frankly, hearing that statistic, it's frightening, but I don't know if it's frightening because it truly, really should be, which is what my gut tells me to some degree, or if it's really frightening just because of the amount that it's in all of our fucking faces right now. And to be honest, like, I'm struggling with it because I tend to have higher levels of anxiety. You both know this. I have like a current that's always running, and I have, even like a day like today, I have really, really good parts of the day, and then parts of the day where like all of a sudden it's like, fuck, like I start retracing my steps and I start thinking about, where I went, because I had to go today. We're staying with Natalie's parents at their house because our house is under contract and we go to closing soon, and we're in the process of packing everything up there. We had to today mail something out to her parents because they're not here, they're isolated elsewhere. And I'm just thinking like, when I got out of the parking lot, like, did I step on something that was contaminated, and then it was on my shoe, and then I bring it back to the house, and then we're in the house, and we're in the garage, and we're doing our workouts with battle ropes, and we're using the battle ropes, and it's, knocking up dust, and am I breathing it in? It's like all of these things, when I step back and think about it for a second, are just like, it's what if mentality, which is not good for anybody. And then when I really get to the end of my thought process with it, I come to the rational realization of maybe, but if so, there's nothing I can do about it now. And I also have to think about all of the other things that I'm doing on a daily basis to prevent exposure for my wife, for myself, for our families, which is a lot. I mean, I'm pretty much isolated with the exception of going back and forth between our two homes, not eating out, not venturing out, not doing anything unnecessary, washing our hands like crazy. Like, right, dude, my hands are so messed up right now from just washing and washing and washing. But then when I hear Justin, when I hear you talk about it, and when I think about Carly and other people I know, it's like, well, the amount of fear and anxiety that I have is definitely relative, you know, and should be, if you're looking at it on paper, minimized compared to what Carly is exposed to and what you are potentially exposed to working in healthcare right now.
Right.
So this is where I wanted to round this out, which is my wife keeps shaking her head when I'm at my computer or I'm on my phone and I'm like watching a video about it, or I'm listening to a recount from a patient who survived it, and they're talking about all the crazy shit they went through, and she's just like, stop. Like, you have all the information you need right now, and when anything major comes out, you will know about it. In the meantime, stop paying attention and looking for things that will help you feel better, because nothing is going to help you feel better right now except getting away from it. And she's right. And I'm trying to get away from all of this media shit that's just like in our faces constantly, because I think it's definitely contributing to how my mind runs and wanders, you know, at this point.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you guys are exposed to that too or feeling that, but I definitely am.
Well, look, I mean, you say maybe your mind starts becoming irrational, and perhaps that's true. But if you're retracing your steps, I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, we are designed to do essentially one thing, and that's to survive. And that's part of your survival mechanism right now, at least, in the way that you function. And it's really up for you to decide, is this helping or is this hurting? Clearly, if you're in a constant state of stress and panic and anxiety, that's not going to help you survive, because it will make you less healthy, to be honest. Unless you're in an actual life situation where it's that dire and you need to be feeling those things. I think we all should feel fear. We should all feel anxiety, and we should all feel stress at times. To feel these things, to feel sad, to feel scared, that's actually a sign of mental health. We are all living through experiences that are legit scary. I mean, it's legitimate to feel these things. And I think to deny those feelings actually doesn't contribute to our health and well-being. It's really what do we do with those feelings? Do we have healthy ways to process them? Do we have coping skills that are adaptive and constructive or productive instead of being destructive to us? And you know, I'm very grateful for the community that we have built through this, and even not really engaging with it for over a year, to know that there's a lot of interest to engage with us. And I'm just grateful for the connection with you two and the technology to that we, you know, do this from our homes, because for me, engaging in this way is part of my, you know, mental health strategy. This is part of taking care of myself, especially living alone.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious, as I know my perspective of the last couple of weeks, and things for me have, drastically changed, that I ended up accepting a position in these crazy times to be a dietitian at a post-acute care center, like long-term care related. And so I've been so inundated with work and new procedures and trying to keep up, while also practicing a lot of the stuff that we talk about here of being kind to myself and giving myself just being understanding and positive self-talk, in that this is all new. It's week one. The expectations, I'm trying to just establish the expectations so I know what what's expected of me. And while I'm dealing with a lot of that, of course, there's a ton of background noise of the pandemic. Like, this is the reality of what's going on. But it's not necessarily like a good or bad thing, but I'm in a sense removed, and in another sense just right on top of hearing all of this stuff. But I'm not able to sit back and process as much as I think I was, say, 2 weeks ago, prior to starting the process of getting ready to go in on this past Monday. So from my perspective, as much as I was probably in a position like Matt, where I was hanging on to all of the coverage, I watched, to Matt's point, in the same vein, a person who talked about getting it and recovering, and I was very on top of all the press conferences coming out. And then I had this big shift in focus, and I haven't been able to sit back and maybe critically go through all of the variables of what's going on, because I'm so focused on something else at the same time. So I'm a little preoccupied. I've been preoccupied. So I think Carly, from the question that was asked before this post, I think with her, because she has a lot going on, and we see the effects of what this is doing to not only businesses, but I've heard now, I know from Carly's perspective, she's going into her last semester of nurse practitioner school, and it's a lot of stuff is up in the air, just like regular schools are kind of up in the air of like, will they resume? How do we do this stuff online? So I think for her, because her schedule is so dialed in and so regimented, every day is kind of known for 6 weeks at a time, and sometimes even longer for a semester of her schooling, that it becomes a thing where I don't think she can even really sit back and maybe think too much about it. She just has to be actionable and keep moving forward. And I think that's where I am right now. Although Matt and I had these same conversations just last week when we were training together of we're Cloroxing everything, we're being safe, we're trying our best to distance and only leave now when you have to leave. So I guess my question now is for the two of you, if you are isolating, as the two of you are, what is the day-to-day thought process when this is the hottest topic and probably the most material of everything that you're consuming?
Well, what I wanted to say to your point is, as crazy as it is for you right now, and I'm sure it's exciting too. I don't say crazy in a bad way. It's your life is hectic in a lot of ways right now for you and Carly. I think there's a lot of upside to that, though, to be honest. When you're looking at, I think, at least for me, and I can't really speak for Jordan, but I would guess, because, I can say for myself, my life in terms of like my daily routine when I'm at home really hasn't changed too much. The only difference is like not going out to get food or eat, or not going to the gym and instead working from home. I don't really go a lot of other places, like I work from home. That's what I always do. But my work is very scattered throughout the day, and it always is. I have a heavy morning, and then I can loosen up and do certain things in like the like middle of the day, and then I have more stuff in the afternoon and evening. But in those pockets in between, now not really going anywhere, it's like, well, let me just open up Facebook and see what's going on, or let me turn on the news and see what's going on. And it's just, I feel like it's so easy to get stuck into that, to where I'm in a good way envious of that sort of intense routine right now that you've been thrown into, to where you don't have time for that bullshit. And I don't mean to minimize what's happening by calling it bullshit. I'm not calling that bullshit. I'm just saying the amount of time that is spent trying to look through all this stuff, that could definitely, I could cut that down a lot. And I will say this, prior to us hopping on tonight, I was having that conversation with Natalie, and I kind of made the decision. It's like, look, I'm not going to do this. Like, I'm going to, instead of when I finish my work, turning on Facebook, I'm going to go pick up a book and read, or we're going to take the dogs for a walk, or I'm going to do my workout then. Maybe I work out twice a day, that's something different that I've never done before that I can now, with all this extra time, work into a routine. I don't know, but I want to fill my time with other productive things instead of just sitting there being blatantly unproductive and frankly doing things that are detrimental, in my opinion, to my own mental health. You know, it's not healthy for me to be doing that. So I don't know. I think it's good, Justin, that you're in the situation you're in, and it's kind of an interesting conundrum in certain ways, because you and Carly may be a little bit more vulnerable to the exposure. At the same time, though, mentally, I feel like you're in a good spot, and that's a good thing too, because it, again, to Jordan, to your point, it keeps us healthy to have a healthy mind, both mentally and physically. So I'm trying to find the balance between making myself focused on productive things in between my real work productivity, and then also just taking care of myself and doing what's right for our community right now.
Yeah. First, I'll speak to just information and news input, and then kind of share my current life situation. Look, this isn't new for us. It's our generation, especially one with the internet reaching a critical mass in the past decade or so, especially with social media, but also just living in a culture where a huge motivation for our news publications is profit. And in order to make the most profit, you have to capture the most attention, and fear is really good at capturing our attention. That is how we're built. As I said earlier, we are designed literally to survive. And so it's hard for us. We did not live decades and decades ago where there were a couple major networks with a nightly newscast, and really the TV news was like 30 to 60 minutes a night, and there were a handful of newspapers, and in general, everyone just figured it was objective and thought they were getting the truth. That's not the case anymore, and it's really hard, if not near impossible, but it's also our responsibility to figure out how do we assess what's going on in the world around us, what's important to us. It takes a ton of critical analysis. It takes a ton of vetting to figure out, where am I going to get news sources. Not only that, for me, but it's also important for me to get opposing viewpoints that I don't trust, because for me it's important to understand what tens of millions of other Americans and people around the world, what news that they're receiving, and how that's shaping their reality. And that helps for me to create more empathy with my neighbors, but it also gives me insight into some of the struggles we have ahead. There's plenty of people, for plenty of reasons, who still believe this is not happening in the way that it's objectively happening, and that puts us at risk. So it's hard. It's hard, and it's a personal kind of journey for all of us to figure out how do we inform ourselves and whether we can trust it or not. I do want to point out, Matt, as you cough, and I'm sure all the time now as we cough, we're like super mindful of what does that mean. But Matt, your fucking shirt has two hands shaking. We're not supposed to be doing that right now, man.
Yeah.
Look at that.
What is that?
It is a coffee shop / speakeasy in Austin, Texas. That was right across from the venue that we played when we were there on tour. So I really liked the place. I was there pretty much in and out throughout the day, and I picked this up. So
yeah. And for a little bit of levity, when's the last time each of you shook a hand?
A long while. It's been a bit.
Yeah, like middle of last week.
And I mean, that's kind of recent.
Yeah.
And at that point, middle of last week, what were your thoughts then versus, of course, we kind of know your perspective now.
Right. that it was dumb, and shortly thereafter we both washed our hands.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't even remember when that was.
But it was you do things out of habit.
Right.
It's hard. Like literally, we as a world populace are going through massive, drastic behavioral change, and ultimately cultural change. And this is not going to go away. I mean, the pandemic it will reach a peak, and as long as we do the things we need to be doing, namely staying the fuck away from each other, it will dip, and then it will rise, and it will dip, and it will rise, and for the foreseeable future, that means like I don't see myself going perhaps say on a subway in New York City even 2 years from now, and like maybe everyone is wearing gloves. You know what I mean? Like we are going to we will have new norms, new societal norms that are literally being shaped moment to moment. This is a big fucking deal. With that, all it's true in my belief. There's plenty of opportunity as well to look at it more optimistically. You can even see, especially people a bit older than us, really figuring out, oh, this is what social media is, and this allows me to virtually connect, whether for my business or for my social well-being. Real briefly, just to share my experience, because it's very different from both of yours. If the last time you heard me through one of these episodes, I was working with a pro wrestling company. I left that under a year ago, but I still maintained my psychotherapy license and using group therapy primarily in a drum circle format, and I do it at these adult day programs. The last group I did was this past Monday, and it was uncomfortable because I know that these people I'm working with don't necessarily have the cognitive and emotional and behavioral capabilities to be as safe as we should be. And we're all banging on instruments that were disinfected prior and after, but still I needed to make sure I had 2 chairs beside me that no one was allowed to sit in. But these people are living day to day in their own crisis mode. They need service, and I need income. And so I went Monday, and the governor ended up closing all day programs, adult day programs, end of the day Monday. So currently, I don't have that work. That was a handful of days a week. I'm not teaching any of my music students right now. I was going to physical therapy with a friend twice a week. I just texted him today, like, hey man, this past week, that was my last one for the foreseeable future. I date, that's kind of hard right now. Justin and I are in a band together. We still have, it's not going to happen obviously, but a show booked a month or so from now. Like all the things in my life are put on pause right now. The therapy practice is working kind of in a triage mode to figure out, okay, these hundreds of clients that we serve, they're all in their group homes. How do we connect with them through technology to serve them? So they're kind of figuring that out now. But for me, my life is completely different right now. And the struggle, I think, for me is to create routines that are productive and that are in the interest of my mental health and well-being, and that includes my social life, that includes my bank account, and that includes my own mitigation of stress and anxiety.
Yeah, I'm interested to comment on one of the points you made about New York City and maybe 2 years from now, and people are, it's vastly different. People maybe wearing gloves and taking a whole different approach to this like mass transit traveling. I don't know. From my perspective, I sit back and I say, we're in the thick of it now. I think as more testing becomes available and more people that you actually know, hopefully this is not the case, of course, but the possibility is real that you'll know someone potentially, or yourself or whomever, potentially gets infected, and you test, if there's a test for it, and someone tests positive. And I think a lot of times until that happens, it doesn't become very real for a lot of people. But I think people are, and maybe this is a trend that if we actually all rack our brains about just history, I think people tend to forget very quickly about where we once were. And maybe that's an escape mechanism, just so you can keep moving forward with life and not dwelling on what once was. But I have a sneaking suspicion and a feeling that this too will pass, and things will start to resume very like life once was before. Do I think some things will change? Some. Do I think a lot of things will change? Maybe the conversations people are talking about, look, there's so much more work that could have been done remotely. There's more things that could have been done this way, through a video chat, through a video chatting protocol. But I think old habits die hard for a lot of people, and I think a lot of old ways of life die hard. And I think this will pass like everything else, and I think a lot of things will start to kind of return to normal until the next thing. I mean, it's not to say that we don't learn from our mistakes and from history, and that if this were to occur again, now a precedent will be set and a lot of things will be different in many ways. But I think we'll get to a point where kind of life resumes its normal flow. And I don't know if this will affect people maybe in the same way that you're thinking.
Yeah. Look, everything that we're sharing is theoretical. Even just the leading experts in the world, whether it's medical professionals or respected journalists, like, we just don't know enough about what we're going through to really predict what will happen
or to make a judgment.
Yeah, we are figuring it out as time is unfolding. I don't. It's definitely not. In some ways, a luxury, and you could be critical or not of how we as Americans responded. But this happened elsewhere in months and weeks prior, so there's at least some information that can be used. I made a post yesterday in the Facebook group, and it was really great to see so many people responding. And as soon as we finish this, I'm going to go through and connect with all the people that did respond. But one of the last comments, I think, was someone in India saying that I don't think there's any reported cases there. But she's already, I think it was a female, she's already, practicing these behaviors that are keeping her safe just in case. And a country like that has the information to learn from what's happening here and throughout Europe and throughout Asia and in many places around the world. But yeah, who knows? We don't know. And I think for most of us, that's what's the scariest, because there's no, it's so hard to have a sense of control.
Can I ask a question and pose a question for both of you? With what both of you do in your normal day-to-day life, Jordan, you just spoke on what you do. Matt, maybe a lot of people know that you're in a band and you do a lot of other things as well. With all of this uncertainty, have either of you, and of course we're living this in real time, right? So things just keep changing, and we're living on these moments, and we're really just living day to day. And I think the scariest part for a lot of people is the fear of the unknown, of the duration of time that this will last. Is it 4 weeks? Is this 3 months? Is this 2 years? No one really can talk on that point, right? We can only highly speculate on that kind of stuff. For both of you, have you sat back and done the inventory and had the thoughts of, Matt, you have a tour coming up, right, in summertime? Jordan, did you have anything booked? And have you thought about how this is affecting things? And what if it does go for a real long duration, 6 months, a year? What if it goes into the next year? You know, have you thought about this and any kind of anything actionable you've thought about that would maybe be valuable for others to start thinking about?
I mean, I've definitely thought about it. I think it is a lot to take in right now, and it's very new. And I think with as much information that's coming at us on a daily, hourly basis, you know, the biggest thing is just finding the balance between a new way of life and also the constant changes that are out of our control. And I don't know if I have advice yet, because I'm still figuring it out for myself. I think the biggest thing is to just try not to get overwhelmed, because it is out of our control. This is out of our control. And I keep reminding myself that, you know, and it's a bitch, because the things we can't control are always the things that bother us the most. And it's just the way it is, you know. Some people are better at just saying, well, they take a very stoic approach to it and say, look, if I can't control this, then I don't want to devote my mind to it. And instead, I'm going to focus on what I can control, and therefore, you know, go about your day doing things that you have control over, which is certainly the advice I would give to anybody, is to take that approach to it. I think for me right now, like I said, I'm just wrapping my head around all of it still. I'm doing my best to learn what I can control and what I can't. And then the things that I can't, okay, I'm not going to think about them. I'm not going to inundate myself with those things, create more complex ways to worry. And instead, I'm just going to take it day by day. Because in reality, it's like, I have what I need in front of me, you know. And for me, I'm using this as you know, Justin, an opportunity too, to like, okay, how can I change my habits, right? And the habits that I want to change anyway, whether this were going on or not, are like part of my eating habits. So instead of like, hey, let's go out for dinner tonight and go eat something that has too much salt and it's all shitty, you know, out at a restaurant, instead, I'm going to make 3 eggs and eat an avocado. Like that's my dinner now, which I'm kind of happy about. Like it's forcing me to develop a habit that I needed to develop anyway. So I guess to that point, I'm trying to look for things like that day to day that I can be really happy about and make positive changes so that I can be better with the things I want to improve upon. I don't know if that answers your question, but I'm just trying not to think about it. And you know what's ironic is, Jordan, as you were talking, I saw an iMessage come through from my mom, and it was like a link to like a Vox article that was like, this could go on for a year or more. And it's like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. It's like, I appreciate what she's trying to do, but at the same time, it's like, whatever. Like, maybe it will, maybe it won't. And either way, what we need to do right now to help our neighbors and each other and ourselves is just what we're doing, which is isolating, social distancing. It's crazy how quickly these terms have become part of our daily, you know, conversations. Flatten the curve, social distancing, etc. It can be overwhelming, but we have to accept sooner or later that this is our reality. And I'm not trying to put on a show here at all by, you know, pretending that I have a fucking good handle on this, because I don't think I do have a fully good handle on it yet. And I don't know if I ever will. I just got to do my best with the tools I have and just try to be as careful as I can be. And I don't know. That's what I'm doing. But it is stressful. And even as we talk about it now, it's like, God damn it, I don't want to be fucking talking about this, because it gives me anxiety, you know?
I just wanted to say quickly to Matt's point about receiving the article. I think it's actually a great term of I think we can also apply the social distancing and use it as a fluid term that can also help you to abstain from engaging in all of the articles that everyone is sending with you in the same way that because everyone can keep speculating, and and when someone shares that, even though it's your mom, you can say, hey, thanks, I appreciate it, but respectfully, I don't really want to receive any more of this stuff because I'm already inundated enough with it, and I would like to social distance myself from that stuff as well, and just keep moving forward, because that's all I can do right now. And I think it's a great fluid term.
Yeah, social media distancing.
Yeah.
Physical distancing.
I think it's going to give a lot of people, that have the luxury of getting over the worrying about covering their basic needs, because all of us, I think, are in a relatively good position covering our basic needs of, the lights are on, we have some food, Jordan has a big pizza in his freezer, he's never done that before,
and I'll probably never eat it either.
I'll probably never eat it, but if all else fails, he has a pizza. He can ration that out over many days and be okay. He doesn't eat that much. But look, all of our basic needs are covered, and at least for the time being, we know that they're covered. And there are a lot of people that may be experiencing a lot of the insecurity, economic and basic needs, that we're very fortunate that we can sit back and reflect on, express gratitude towards, that we have all those, which opens up that if you do have the time, and Matt said this earlier, that instead of engaging in all of the social media or aimless TV or whatever else that's a good distraction, we can actually take this as a time where we see people trying to learn a second language, or reading that book that you bought 8 books and you never got to open any of them and list. And it's like, wait, I have this amazing ability and time that I often don't have to just sit back and kind of do nothing while engaging in something very productive.
I'm glad you brought a lot of those points up, because I wanted to go there. Yes, the three of us have many relative luxuries. But even for me, I'm thinking, do I stay in this apartment? I don't know what my financial reality is going to be next week, and I certainly have no idea what it's going to be like 3 months from now. And I don't know if at some point in the future, the owner of this apartment building is going to say, hey, no one has to pay rent for the next couple months until we get a handle on this. They may offer a very reduced rate for the next renewal, because I'm sure a lot of people in this building, many of whom are Hopkins students, who knows what's going to happen. So I have to begin thinking about these realities months in advance, because I may have to make drastic life changes in that sense. Look, there are likely people listening to this right now who are freaked the fuck out in this moment, and rightly so, because they may not have the means to afford food in a couple weeks. They may not have the means to afford to keep the lights on, or to stay where they're living, or to provide for their children. Like the three of us can't even get close to understanding what that could feel like right now, and many of us have no idea how, if we have an employer, how they'll respond, how our local or state or federal governments will respond in assisting us, and in many ways they don't know yet either. So many people right now may not have the luxury of free time to worry about these things. Maybe some of us are spending all of our time figuring out, how do I take my business virtually, digitally? How do I create a new business, whether it's a YouTube channel or some other way to earn income, to build a business, to offer value, whether a service or not, online. And I guess maybe a point I'd like to kind of bring it to is, all of us are in a completely different situation in our personal lives. Yes, we have all this in common, that we're connected in that we're doing this together and going through it as a society. But the realities of each of us are different. Someone listening, they may have a loved one who could be really gravely ill right now. luckily, we don't know what that reality is. If things like that begin to happen for us, everything in our life changes in many ways. So I hope for those listening, I just want to normalize your experience, because whatever you're going through, whatever you're feeling, it's uniquely your own, and it's not wrong. For all of us, I'm sure there's ways that we're processing and dealing that aren't helpful for us, and that's where healthy self-awareness practices and coping skills come into play. But it's all unique to each of us, even though we're all in this together. It's rough, guys. Like, this is real shit.
Yeah. Well, and it's truly hard, at least right now, and I'm hoping this changes within the next week or two. It's hard to talk about anything else, right, with anybody. Mm-hmm. And I think that's part of the issue. It's just it's just inundating. But I think my hope, and I think this was your guys' hope too, for recording this, was to take advantage, one, of the time that we now have to do this, and two, remind people that we're going through this shit, and in whatever sense of the way we're a part of a community, a very large community now that's all going through the same thing. But like, even in our little Chocolate Croissants Facebook group, it's like, we're definitely going through this, and it's almost embarrassing, in some ways, to admit it, that like, fuck, I've probably been like a shitty husband in some ways, and a shitty friend in some ways over the past week or two, because it's like, as much as I want to be present with everybody, it's like, I'm fucking processing this on my own, and I'm like envisioning things that I never thought I'd have to envision, and I am going down that what if path, and I certainly don't want to, Justin, like, I'm like paying attention to what all the smart people that we know and love are saying. And the other day we were watching all those videos from Dr. Peter Attia, and it's like, fuck, like, I can only imagine what a dude like that, who is engulfed in the research too every day, is thinking. How can that guy be like a good family member if like this is what's going on? How do these people that are working in hospitals treating patients like this create a compartmentalization for themselves? I feel like it's a sort of living hell. I know those are strong words, but, and it's varying degrees of it for people, but this situation is fucking way more daunting than, at least for myself, than like I was expecting to be dealing with right now. So like, when you talk about like a tour in June, it's like, I hope it happens, but right, the likelihood of it happening is probably pretty low at this point. But even so, it's like, I don't give a fuck about that. You know what I was just thinking about? I know that sounds bad, but you know what I was just thinking about is, part of me wants, like, our local governor, who's been doing, in my opinion, a fucking amazing job. I want our governor to put a fucking lockdown in place so that we don't have to think about going out.
Right.
Like, there's no option. Like, that's it. You got to be in one place for a couple weeks, and then at least you can relax your mind. Because I find, for me, it's like every time I do have to venture out to the grocery store, or like today I had to go to the UPS store, like I said, it's like that resets my clock of thinking like, oh, how long is it going to take? How long is it going to take for me to show a symptom or get it, or my wife to get it, or whoever? Whereas if we're just home, then it's like, all right, cool. And I'm going to, honestly, like, that's how I've been trying to live, but I really have been every day trying to make it even more of that isolation in that aspect. And my point to this is, like, I have really big personal things coming up, like the closing on my new house, and my current house is under contract. There's a closing for that. It's like, of course I want all those things to happen, but what's more important, right? And in that sense, when I think of it that way, I'd much rather be able to fucking just lock down right now until we get a better grip of this thing as a society. And, I guess instead of going to closing or doing all those other things. I don't know. But again, it's different for me. Because I'm lucky to have certain things that I do have in my life, I work for myself. Business isn't necessarily suffering, so I'm not in the position that you're in, Jordan, where you now don't have the same level of work that you had before, that many of my friends don't have. I have plenty of friends that work in the service industry. All my friends are either in bands that just had to cancel tours, or they're crew members of bands that have zero income right now. I am very much, I'm very sad for them, and I'm very frustrated for them. I guess my point is, it's like everybody's worried about their own unique situation, and everybody's trying to adapt to their own unique situation. But we are human, and we've been surviving for many, 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 many years, a very long time. And we're not the first humans to have to deal with something like this. I'm not the first human in another time to have these same thoughts. In whatever language that human was hearing in their head, they had to deal with these same things and probably went through these things. And hopefully it's in my DNA, all of our DNA over the years of evolution, to as quick as possible learn to cope with these things. And that's my goal, and that's what I'm trying to do on a daily basis. And that's why, again, I think you're right, Jordan. It is good to think about this stuff to a degree, because it helps us to narrow the funnel to the decisions that we will then live by on a daily basis.
Yeah. A couple points to make on that. I think it's absolutely fascinating to watch the ultimate reality show play out right in front of our eyes. And I think the toughest part with telling everyone, what is the term when you just shut everything down? Does anyone remember that, where you can quarantine everyone, you enact a certain law?
Martial law?
Is that what it is?
I mean, that's a pretty extreme measure, wartime measure.
Right, but yeah, some or a varying degree of that, and it's fascinating to see that there's still, I think there's beaches maybe in Florida right now that they're not even going to shut down until Monday. I think it weighs very heavily on every governor and of every state to try to make that decision, because if you really shut it down, then it affects everything that they're still trying to keep afloat for those that potentially do live paycheck to paycheck and then are going to go through a lot of that economic anxiety, and then all of the extra worrying that comes with the uncertainty of the unknown, of how long will this go on, and what does my new shift of reality look like. So if you really shut it down, then I know that they've now done the I think alcohol can be delivered now from liquors. I mean, things are fascinating right now. You want to go pick up food, you can't go in the place, but they have signs that say, in Maryland at least, that what we would experience, that you can knock on the door or something of that nature, I think, and someone can come to the door and grab curbside pickup. I think a lot of people are in survival mode for themselves and then for all of their employees. And so if you do shut it down and really just shut it down, then I think it just stirs up a lot more anxiety and fear and questions that I don't know if people are prepared to answer. What I'm super interested in is that, Matt, you have a business that's ran online that a lot of creatives who may be sitting at home quarantine or self-quarantining maybe are purchasing and putting more usage into. And I know that I saw Moog synthesizers. I think they normally have a $100 program that they just were throwing it out there for free for people. Hey, give yourself something to do. Learn how to play a synthesizer, probably on your laptop keyboard. And Matt and I threw out a project that we worked on a couple years ago of giving away some free fitness programs for people. And I see so many people doing that kind of stuff. It's fascinating to see that part. And I'm curious, Matt, you do have a business that's ran online, a lot of these, a lot of people who are starting to kind of go that route, thinking about new ways to deal with the new world. have you seen like an uptick in people using it or talking about using it while they've been locking out, or more people are grabbing it?
We haven't seen any drop off for sure, but we also want to make it, to your point, a lot more accessible for people because of the amount of free time that creatives do have on their hands. So we're actually, we're running a pretty big sale for the foreseeable future for now, to make it a lot more affordable for people to get a hold of the tools that we provide. I love that other businesses are doing that. Other companies that already have a foothold online, that sell digital products, that have that kind of thing going on. I think it's great. I'm seeing everybody do it though. I ordered more Kettle and Fire bone broth today.
Nice. Yeah.
And I got a massive discount, because I'm home and they know that people are home, and that's why they're ordering. They're trying to eat healthy. But anyway, it's just a weird time, man. Like, again, certain things are affected and certain things aren't. And I'll go back to it now. It's like, for me, it always takes me a little bit longer to adjust to big changes. And I think the thing in my life that's most affected is just my own mental health at this point, that I'm just working on, grappling and getting my finding my peace with it,
Well, look, we're all human. Mental health is one of the most, I think, undervalued and ignored aspects of our humanity. It's hard to acknowledge that which we can't see. And we see the physical self. That's why physical fitness has been, a multi-billion-dollar industry for many, many decades now. Yoga is treated mostly in this culture as a physical practice and less so as an emotional, spiritual practice. But look, I am a licensed mental health professional, and I intend to communicate and engage with the people in this community. If you're not in the Facebook group, if you have a desktop or a laptop, facebook.com/groups/chocolate croissants. It's
been a minute.
It's been a minute since I said
say it again. Let me hear it again.
Facebook.com/groups/chocolate croissants, or just search chocolate croissants, I suppose, in the Facebook app on your phone or tablet.
Matt, did you remember that link?
Mm-hmm.
Let me hear it.
Facebook.com/groups/chocolate croissants.
Wow.
Code chocolate25. That's chocolate, the number 2,
capital
the number
C.
5.
There you go.
What do you get a discount?
Well, I'm intending to
services?
provide my insight, my skill set, my knowledge with the people in this community. I'm gonna fuck with like Instagram Live, and I know I can invite other people to be part of the video feed as I choose, and maybe we'll have conversations there. Chocolate Croissants podcast on Instagram.
Yeah.
Look, it's my intention to engage with this community and check in. We need connection. We need support. We need to feel like our experiences are normalized. You guys have the luxury of living with wonderful human beings and animals. I do not. I have a couple plants that I water sometimes, and I have a fucking frozen pizza in my freezer.
What kind of pizza is it?
It's from Wegmans. It's I think uncured pepperoni. It says it'll rise when I bake it. It wasn't the thin crust one. And it's about what I remember right now.
Why that one?
There weren't many left when I went to the food store, and it literally was, ooh, that looks really big. So in case shit gets like really, really bad, like I could munch on this for a couple days.
There you go.
How long could you ration that out for? Realistically.
I hope to not learn what that would be like.
Quickly, Matt, when you buy frozen pizzas, what do you do?
I don't know. It's been a long time.
Well, think about your favorites. DiGiorno or Jordan and I grew up on Celeste Pizza.
Trader Joe's.
Okay, so
Trader Joe's has the best frozen pizza.
here's
Who?
what I'm gonna do.
Trader Joe's.
Oh, Trader Joe's.
Yeah, rest in peace.
But real quick, we should wrap up because Daddy needs to go potty real bad.
Agreed. I will commit to this to my brother and to our daddy. When the time comes that I eat this frozen Wegmans pizza, I will go live in the Chocolate Croissants Facebook group.
Kind of like when you taught us how to make cereal.
Yeah, that was a Cocoa Crispy.
Yes.
You could probably find that in the group. It was a simpler time, guys.
That's as infamous as when Matt knocked the mic over.
Yes, that was great. We'll have to pull that
Daddy.
out from the archives. Well, guys, we should definitely do this again. I think it'll be really good to touch base, potentially even next week as things continue to unfold in all of our lives. It'd be great to touch base and kind of see where everybody's at, see how we're all feeling. Hopefully everybody is still healthy and doing good. That's definitely the big hope, knock on wood. But let's aim to continue to touch base like this because, again, for the foreseeable future, it seems like that's going to be the best way for us to interact with our peers and our friends. So I think that we should continue to do this for now, and just hopefully next week, the goal should be to talk about some other cool things that we all have going on. That should be the
Absolutely.
goal, and talk about how we've adjusted. And for everybody who has listened this far into this episode, tell us how you guys are getting along with this stuff. Tell us what's hard, what's easy, what kind of productivity you're seeing in your own life that's unfolding or that might already have been there. Tell us what you want us to talk about more. Give us some good stuff so that we don't have to really keep talking about this particular topic all the time. So let us know what we can do, and we'll do it.
Justin, any last words before I close this out?
Yeah, and until then.
Oh, well said. Like a true sage. Well,
Up for you, just
find us in the Facebook group, and we'll engage with you there. Until next time.
All right, John, mix it, John.
But until then,
look. Until then,
next time.
Until then, there's going to be moments where we feel scared. There's going to be moments where we feel tension and stress and anxiety and sadness. What I'd like to put out there is give yourself the gift of honoring those feelings and know when it's time to move past that. At any moment of any day, one deep mindful breath can literally change the state of our bodies and our minds. The breath is always there. There's plenty of free resources on YouTube to guide you or to teach you how to do deep breathing. Breathing is the end all be all. And it's something we all share. So if at any moment you feel panic or worry or overwhelmed, breathe. Just breathe. One breath, and then maybe another, and that can help shift us immediately. So with that, be kind to yourself, and until next time, bye-bye.